Vincent Eugene Craddock, known as Gene Vincent, was an American musician who pioneered the styles of rock and roll and rockabilly. His 1956 top 10 hit with his Blue Caps, Be-Bop-A-Lula, is considered a significant early example of rockabilly. He is a member of both the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Rockabilly Hall of Fame. Biography. Early life. Vincent Eugene Craddock was born in Norfolk, Virginia. His musical influences included country, rhythm and blues and gospel music. He showed his first real interest in music while his family lived in Munden Point, Princess Anne County, Virginia, near the North Carolina line, where they ran a country store. He received his first guitar at the age of 12 as a gift from a friend. His father, Ezekiel Jackson Craddock, volunteered to serve in the U.S. Coast Guard and patrolled American coastal waters to protect Allied shipping against German U-boats during World War II. His mother, Mary Louise Craddock, maintained a general store at Munden Point. Craddock's parents moved the family and opened a general store and sailor's tailoring shop in Norfolk. Having spent his youth in the Norfolk area, Craddock dropped out of school at 17 and enlisted in the United States Navy in 1952. Craddock's parents signed the forms allowing him to join the Navy. He completed boot camp and joined the fleet as a crewman aboard the fleet oiler USS Chukor, and although he spent 2 weeks training period in the repair ship USS Amphion before returning to the Chukor. Craddock never saw combat but completed a Korean War deployment. He sailed home from Korean waters aboard battleship USS Wisconsin, but was not part of the ship's company. Craddock planned a career in the Navy and, in 1955, used his $612 re-enlistment bonus to buy a new Triumph motorbike. In July 1955, while in Norfolk, a motorcycle crash shattered his left leg. He refused to have it amputated. The leg was saved, but the crash left him with a limp and pain. He wore a steel sheath around the leg for the rest of his life. Most accounts relate the accident as the fault of a drunk driver who struck him, although some claim Craddock had been riding drunk. Years later, in some of his professional music bios, there is no mention of an accident, but it was claimed that he was wounded in combat in Korea. He spent time in the Portsmouth Naval Hospital and was medically discharged from the Navy shortly thereafter. Early music career. Craddock became involved in the local music scene in Norfolk. He changed his name to Gene Vincent, and formed a rockabilly band called the Blue Caps. The band included Willie Williams on rhythm guitar, Jack Neal on upright bass, Dickie Harrell on drums, and lead guitarist, Cliff Gallup. He and his band were named Gene Vincent and his Blue Caps. He also collaborated with another rising musician, Jay Chevalier of Rapids Parish, Louisiana. Gene Vincent and his Blue Caps soon gained a reputation playing in various country bars in his native Norfolk, Virginia. There, they won a talent contest organized by local radio DJ Sheriff Tex Davis, who became his manager. Biggest hits. In 1956 he wrote Be-Bop-A-Lula, which drew comparisons to Elvis Presley, in which Rolling Stone magazine lists as number 103 on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Songs of All Time. Local radio DJ Sheriff Tex Davis arranged for this to be demoed, and this secured him a contract with Capitol Records. He signed a publishing contract with Bill Lowry of the Lowry Group of Music Publishers in Atlanta, Georgia. Be-Bop-A-Lula was not on Vincent's first album and was picked by Capitol producer Ken Nelson as the B-side of his first single. Prior to the release of the single, Lowry pressed promotional copies of Be-Bop-A-Lula, and sent them to radio stations throughout the country. By the time Capitol released the single, Be-Bop-A-Lula had already gained attention from the public and radio DJs. The song was picked up and played by other U.S. radio stations, and became a hit and launched Vincent as a rock and roll star. After Be-Bop-A-Lula became a hit, Gene Vincent and his Blue Caps were unable to follow it up with the same level of commercial success, but released critically acclaimed songs like Race with the Devil, and Blue Jean Bop. Cliff Gallup left the band in 1956 and Russell Williford joined as the new guitarist for the Blue Caps. Williford played and toured Canada with Vincent in late 1956 and left in early 1957. Gallup came back to do the next album, left again, then Russell came back and exited before Johnny Meeks entered the band. The group had another hit with 1957's Lotta Lovin'. Vincent was awarded gold records for 2 million sales of Be-Bop-A-Lula, and 1.5 million sales of Lotta Lovin'. The same year he toured the east coast of Australia with Little Richard and Eddie Cochran, drawing audiences totaling 72,000 to their Sydney Stadium concerts. Vincent also made an appearance in the film, The Girl Can't Help It with Jane Mansfield, performing Be-Bop-A-Lula with the Blue Caps in a rehearsal room. Dance to the Bop was released by Capitol Records on October 28, 1957. On November 17, 1957, Vincent and his Blue Caps performed the song on the nationally broadcast Ed Sullivan Show. The song spent 9 weeks on the Billboard charts and peaked at number 23 on January 23, 1958 and number 36 and 8 weeks in Cashbox, and would be Vincent's last American hit single. The song was used in the movie Hot Rod Gang for a dance rehearsal scene featuring dancers doing West Coast swing. Vincent and his Blue Caps also appeared several times on Town Hall Party, California's largest country music band dance held at the Town Hall in Compton, California. Town Hall Party drew in excess of 2,800 paid admissions each Friday and Saturday with room for 1,200 dancers. The show was also on from 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. over the NBC radio network. It was also shown on KTTV, Channel 11 from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. on Saturday nights. Appearances were on October 25, 1958, as well as July 25 and November 7, 1959. Songs performed were, Be-Bop-A-Lula, High Blood Pressure, Rip It Up, Dance to the Bop, You Win Again, For Your Precious Love, Rocky Road Blues, Pretty Pearly, High School Confidential, Over the Rainbow, Roll Over Beethoven, and She Little Sheila. Europe a dispute with the U.S. tax authorities and the American Musicians Union over payments to his band and his having sold the band's equipment to pay a tax bill led him to leave the U.S. and try his hand in Europe. On December 15, 1959, Vincent appeared on Jack Good's TV show Boy Meets Girl, his first appearance in England. He wore black leather, gloves, and a medallion, and stood in a hunched posture. Good is credited with the transformation of Vincent's image. After the TV appearance he toured France, the Netherlands, Germany and the UK performing in his US stage clothes. On April 16, 1960, while on tour in the UK, Vincent, Eddie Cochran and songwriter Sharon Sheeley were involved in a high-speed traffic accident in a private hire taxi in Chippenham, Wiltshire. Vincent broke his ribs and collarbone and further damaged his weakened leg. Sheeley suffered a broken pelvis. Cochran, who had been thrown from the vehicle, suffered serious brain injuries and died the next day. Vincent returned to the States after the accident. Promoter Don Arden had Vincent return to the UK in 1961 to do an extensive tour in theatres and ballrooms with Chris Wayne and the Echoes. Due to the overwhelming success of this tour, Vincent subsequently moved to Britain in 1963. The accompanying band, Sounds Incorporated, a six-piece outfit which included 3 saxophones, guitar, bass and drums, later went on to play with the Beatles at their Shea Stadium concert. He toured the UK again in 1963 with the Outlaws, featuring future Deep Purple guitar player Ritchie Blackmore, as a backing band. Vincent's alcohol problems marred the tour, resulting in problems both on stage and with the band and management. Later career Vincent's attempts to re-establish his American career in folk rock and country rock proved unsuccessful. He is remembered today for recordings of the 1950s and early 1960s that appeared on the Capitol label. In the early 60s, he also put out tracks on EMI's Columbia label, including a cover of Arthur Alexander's Where Have You Been All My Life? A backing band called The Shouts joined him. In 1966 and 1967, in the States, he recorded for Challenge Records, backed by ex-members of the Champs and Glenn Campbell. Challenge released 3 singles in the US, and the UK London label released 2 singles and collected recordings onto an LP, Gene Vincent, on the UK London label in 1967. although well received, none sold well. In 1968 in a hotel in Germany, Gene Vincent tried to shoot Gary Glitter. Vincent fired several shots and missed, and a frightened Glitter left the country the next day. In 1969, he recorded the album I'm Back and I'm Proud for longtime fan John Peel's Dandelion label, produced by Kim Fowley with arrangements by the Bid Skip Battin and backing vocals by Linda Ronstadt. He recorded 2 other albums for the Kama Sutra label, reissued on 1 CD by Rev Ola in March 2008. On his 1969 tour of the UK he was backed by the Wild Angels, a British band who had worked at the Royal Albert Hall with Bill Haley and his Comets and Duane Eddy. Because of pressure from his ex-wife, the Inland Revenue and promoter Don Arden, Vincent returned to the US. His final US recordings were 4 tracks for Rockin' Ronnie Wise's Rolling Rock label, a few weeks before his death. These were released on a compilation album of tribute songs, including Say Mama by his daughter, Melody Gene Vincent, accompanied by Johnny Meeks on guitar. He later recorded 4 tracks in Britain in October 1971 as part of his last tour. He was backed by Richard Cole and Kansas Hook. They recorded 5 tracks at the BBC studios in Maida Vale, London, for Johnny Walker's radio show. He managed 1 show at the Garrick nightclub in Lee, Lancashire, and 2 shows at the Wookey Hollow Club in Liverpool on October 3 and 4 before his health gave out. Vincent returned to the US and died a few days later. 4 of these tracks were later released on the BBC's own label Prefix BEBO01 called The Last Session. This includes a version of Say Mama. The 4 tracks are now on Vincent's White Lightning album. Death and legacy Vincent died on October 12, 1971 from a ruptured stomach ulcer while visiting his father in California, and is interred in the Eternal Valley Memorial Park, Newell, California. He was the first inductee into the Rockabilly Hall of Fame upon its formation in 1997. The following year he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Vincent has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame at 1749 North Vine Street. In 2012, his band, the Blue Caps, were retroactively inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame by a special committee, alongside Vincent. On Tuesday, September 23, 2003, Vincent was honored with the Norfolk's Legends of Music Walk of Fame Bronze Star embedded in the Granby Street sidewalk. Discography == Woman Love / Be-Bop-A-Lula, Race with the Devil / Gonna Back Up Baby, Blue Jean Bop / Who Slapped John, Jumps, Giggles and Shouts / Wedding Bells, Crazy Legs / Important Words, 5 Days / Be-I-Bicky Bo Go, Lotta Lovin' / Wear My Ring, Dance to the Bop / I Got It, Lotta Lovin' / Be-Bop-A-Lula, I Got a Baby / Walking Home from School, Baby Blues / True to You, Rocky Road Blues / Yes I Love You Baby, Get It / Little Lover, Say Mama / Be-Bop Boogie Boy, Over the Rainbow / Who's Pushing Your Swing, Summertime / Frankie and Johnny, The Night Is So Lonely / Right Now, Wildcat / Right Here on Earth, My Heart / I Got to Get to You Yet, Pistol Packin' Mama / Weeping Willow, Pistol Packin' Mama / Anna Annabelle / Accentuate the Positive, Jezebel / Maybe, If You Want My Lovin' / Mr. Loneliness, She Little Sheila / Hot Dollar, I'm Going Home / Love of a Man, Brand New Beat / Unchained Melody, Lucky Star / Baby Don't Believe Him. King of Fools / Be-Bop-A-Lula 62, Held for Questioning / You're Still in My Heart, Crazy Beat / High Blood Pressure, Where Have You Been All My Life / Temptation Baby, Humpty Dumpty / A Love 'Em and Leave 'Em Kinda Guy, La Den Da / The Beginning of the End, Private Detective / You Are My Sunshine, Bird Doggin / Ain't That Too Much, Lonely Street / I've Got My Eyes on You, Born to Be a Rolling Stone / Hurtin' for You Baby, Be-Bop-A-Lula 69 / Ruby. Baby, White Lightning / Scarlet Ribbons, Story of the Rockers / Pickin' Poppies, Sunshine / Geese, The Day the World Turned Blue / How I Love Them Old Songs, The Day the World Turned Blue / High on Life, Roll Over Beethoven / Say Mama / Be-Bop-A-Lula, Hound Dog, Live, / Be-Bop-A-Lula, Live, NB. Apart from the first 1957 reissue, This listing omits the very many reissue singles released over the decades. Albums Blue Jean Bop, Gene Vincent and His Blue Caps, Gene Vincent Rocks. And the Blue Caps roll. A Gene Vincent record date, Sounds Like Gene Vincent, Crazy Times, The Crazy Beat of Gene Vincent, Shakin' Up a Storm, Gene Vincent, I'm Back and I'm Proud, 69, Gene Vincent retitled If Only You Could See Me Today, The Day the World Turned Blue, Rhythm in Blue, Be-Bop-A-Lula, Forever Gene Vincent, Dressed in Black, Gene Vincent with interview by Red Robinson, From LA to Frisco, For Collectors Only, Rarities Vol. 2, Important Words, Lost Dallas Sessions, Hey Mama. This listing omits the many reissue albums released over the decades. EPs Hot Rod Gang, Be-Bop-A-Lula 62, Live and Rockin', The Screamin' Kid Live. The Screaming Kid, Rainy Days Sunshine, on tour with Gene Vincent and Eddie Cochran, in Concert Vol. 1, The Last Session, Hey Mama. Blue Jean, This listing omits the many EPs of album tracks and compilations. Film appearances, The Girl Can't Help It, Hot Rod Gang, Live It Up. It's Trad, Dad. Vincent was played by Carl Baracent in the 2009 film, Telstar. See also. Music Ian Dury Sweet Gene Vincent, From New Boots and Panties. Havana 3 AM. Blue Gene Vincent, Johnny Carroll Black Leather Rebel, Robert Gordon The Catman on his album Rockabilly Boogie, Stray Cats Gene and Eddie on their album Blast Off. Films Early in the film, Quadrophenia, Kevin, played by Ray Winstone, sings Be-Bop-A-Lula in the bathtub. In the 2003 film, The Singing Detective, Robert Downey Jr., sings In My Dreams, Important Words, and Woman Love. Be-Bop-A-Lula appears in the 1990 film, Wild at Heart. One of the main characters is named Lula. Be-Bop-A-Lula appears in the 1998 film Pleasantville. Bibliography, Bright Hugati, The Day the World Turned Blue Blandford Press ISBN 0-7137-1531-6, Susan Van Heck, Race with the Devil, Gene Vincent's Life in the Fast Lane. St. Martin's Press ISBN 0-312-26222-1, Stephen Mandich, Sweet Gene Vincent Orange Syringe Publications 1000 printed. ISBN 0-9537626-0-2, McFarren, Gene Vincent. There's One in Every Town That Do Not Press ISBN 1-904316-37-9, John Collis, Gene Vincent and Eddie Cochran, Rock 'n' Roll Revolutionaries Virgin Books ISBN 1-85227-193-0, Derek Henderson, Gene Vincent, A Companion Spent Brothers Productions ISBN 0-9519416-7-4. References. External links, Official Gene Vincent website from Rockabilly Hall of Fame. Gene Vincent at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Official Fan Club Gene Vincent Lonely Street, Derek Henderson's Gene Vincent website.